All right, students, welcome. This is your ultimate high-speed revision on the formation of Telangana. We're going to get straight to the point, lock in those key facts, and get you ready to absolutely ace your exam.
So let's jump right into the big question, shall we? Why did this happen? I mean, from one big state to two, it's a huge deal. Understanding the why behind this 50-year struggle is the key, really. It'll make remembering all the facts, dates, and names so much easier. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with how it all started, the merger and those early tensions. Then we'll get into the super important Gentlemen's Agreement of 1956. After that, we'll look at the first major uprising, the 1969 Agitation, and the long decades of discontent that followed. Then the final push, the movement that actually made it happen. And we'll wrap it all up with a rapid-fire top 10 facts. You're going to want to stick around for that. Ready? Let's go.
All right, first up, let's rewind all the way back to the beginning, to the merger of the Telugu-speaking regions. You know, this is where the first tiny seeds of conflict were actually planted.
Okay, listen up, because if you get this slide, you get the whole story. The two regions were just worlds apart. Think about it. Telangana, a dry plateau, farming depended on rain and wells, and the culture was all about these amazing folk traditions. Coastal Andhra, on the other hand, fertile river deltas, canals everywhere, and a more developed economy. Totally different geography, totally different culture. So when you push them together, well, you're bound to get some friction, right? That's exactly what happened. So to try and smooth over these big differences, the leaders came up with a pact, and I need you to pay super close attention here. Seriously, this is one of the most important topics for your exam. It comes up all the time.
So what exactly was the Gentlemen's Agreement? For your exam, you need to know this definition cold. It was basically a set of promises, a list of safeguards put in place before Andhra Pradesh was even created. The whole point was to make sure the rights, jobs, and resources of the Telangana people were protected. Okay, now these points are pure gold for your exams. I'm telling you, they love asking about the specifics. You should aim to know at least 4 of these. But if you're short on time, lock in these 2. The Mulkey Rules, that's the one about reserving jobs for locals, and the plan for a regional council. These promises were literally the bedrock of the whole agreement.
So what do you think happens when a pact like that, a gentleman's agreement, gets broken? Well, you get anger, you get protest. And that's exactly what happened. The failure to stick to these promises is what directly led to the first massive uprising in 1969. So if a question asks for the causes of the 1969 agitation, your answer is right here. It's simple. The promises were broken. The money from Telangana was being spent elsewhere. The jobs were going to outsiders, which was a flat-out violation of the Mulkey Rules. And who was leading the charge? The students. You have to remember, Osmania University, they were the real heart of these protests, demanding what was promised.
And look, we're not talking about a small, quiet protest here. This was a massive, intense movement. You had huge demonstrations, statewide strikes, people on hunger fasts. It was a full-blown uprising. And it came at a terrible cost. It's a tragic fact, but official records say around 370 people died during this struggle. You might think that after such a huge protest, things would get better, but they didn't. The 1969 agitation eventually quieted down, but those core issues, the discrimination, the neglects, they didn't just disappear. In fact, over the next couple of decades, things actually got worse, and that divide between the two regions grew even wider. Now, this table, this is the kind of hard data that makes an exam answer stand out. Just look at the numbers for irrigation. The Andhra region gets over 13 lakh hectares of water from canals, stable, government-funded projects. Now look at Telangana, almost nothing from canals. Instead, they're depending on 14 lakh hectares of wells. That's way more unreliable. So when we talk about neglect, this is what it looks like. This is about water, a basic resource. And that lack of water, that neglect, it had a devastating human cost. Look at this number, 63%. That's the share of farmer suicides that happened in the Telangana region alone in just 1 year. It's a heartbreaking statistic, but it powerfully shows the real-life consequences of the agricultural crisis happening there. So, after decades of this simmering discontent, this feeling of being left behind, something had to give, and it did. This all boiled over into what we now call the final movement. This was the new wave, the final push, the one that would actually succeed. What's really cool about this final phase is how creative it was. This was a true people's movement, and they came up with these amazing forms of protest. You should definitely try to remember a few of these for your answers. You had doom dumps. using songs and art to raise awareness. And then there's Venta Varpu, literally people cooking and eating on the roads to protest. How incredible is that? It just brought everything to a standstill. And these pictures just show you the incredible scale of it all. On the left, you've got this sea of people in the Million March, a huge political statement. But on the right, you have Vanta Varpu, this incredibly personal, community-driven act of protest. It just shows that everyone, from political leaders to ordinary families, was part of this movement. The unity was just undeniable. Now, every major movement has a turning point, a moment that changes everything. For Telangana, this was it. In 2009, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, or KCR, began a fast unto death. This one act just electrified the entire movement. It put immense pressure on the central government, and they actually announced that yes, the process for a new state would begin. Now, they did backtrack on that a little later, but it didn't matter. The genie was out of the bottle. The momentum was just too strong to stop. Okay, so let's get to the end game. All of this pressure, the years of protests, the strikes, the work of these groups called Joint Action Committees, or JACs, it all finally paid off. The issue landed squarely in the Indian Parliament, and they had to act.
And here it is, the single most important date in this entire story. If you remember nothing else, remember this. June 2nd, 2014. Get it into your head. That's the day Telangana officially became the 29th state of India. The day of struggle of over 50 years finally came to an end.
And there you have it, a new state on the map of India. The dream that fueled decades of struggle was finally a reality. Telangana was born with its own government, its own future, all built on the hope of protecting its unique culture and its people's aspirations. Okay, deep breath. We're heading into the final stretch. It's time for our rapid-fire round. The top 10 facts you absolutely, positively must have burned into your brain before you walk into that exam. You ready for this? Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. 1. 1956, the year of the Gentleman's Agreement. 2. Moki rules, jobs for locals. 3. 1969, the first big agitation. 4. The regional council meant to protect Telangana's interests. 5. KCR, his fast was the turning point. 6. Vanta Varpu, that unique cooking protest. 7. JACs, the committees that united everyone. 8. Prof. Jayashankar, the movement's main thinker. 9. Sakala Janala Same, the massive 42-day strike. And 10, the big one, June 2, 2014, Telangana Formation Day. Got it? Good. These are your golden tickets.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this one big thought. The fight for Telangana, it was never just about changing a map. It goes so much deeper than that. At its very heart, it was a struggle for something fundamental. For water, for jobs, and for money. For self-respect. For a fair shot. That's the story you need to tell. Now go out there and smash that exam. All the best.